Seeing Stephen was still being stubborn, Charlie just shook his head and sneered. You don't even know the difference between a decorative amulet and a ceremonial one? There's an old saying, seal the 9 gates with gold and diamonds, and the mortal form shall not perish. You must have heard of that, right? What's that about gold and diamonds and dead people? Stephen asked, completely lost. Charlie looked at him like he was a lost cause, shaking his head. You really don't know? Have you ever heard of a preservation stone? What? A preservation stone? Stephen was even more confused, staring at Charlie with a blank expression. Even though Stephen liked antiques, he never bothered to actually study them. He just bought whatever people told him was valuable so he could go out and show it off. You idiot, Charlie sneered. A preservation stone is the ceremonial stone used to plug up the 9 gates of a dead person. You know, the 7 openings on the head, ears, nose, mouth, and eyes, plus the other 2. Dead? Stephen's mouth fell open, his eyes wide with shock. He looked down at the amulet hanging around his neck in disbelief. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end. It was from a dead person? Charlie said mockingly, It looks like you really don't get it. The amulet in your hand was used to plug a dead person's, well, their rear exit, the so-called airlock door. And you're wearing it around your neck. Don't you think it stinks? Stephen was speechless. He stared at the amulet in his hand, and a wave of nausea washed over him. That amulet was actually stuffed in that place, and he'd worn it as a good luck charm around his neck for 3 years. The worst part was, he liked it so much he would often put it in his mouth to fiddle with it. Did that mean he had basically been tasting ancient filth? Stephen couldn't take it anymore. He bent over and started retching. The crowd, which had been eager to see what was happening, now just stared at him with contempt. Some of them were clearly enjoying his misery, mocking him for being so clueless and spending a fortune on something so disgusting. Charlie added coldly, on top of that, this piece of crystal has been steeped in necrotic energy for centuries. It's absorbed a powerful, fierce aura. If you keep wearing it, you'll be dead within a year. The second Charlie finished speaking, the crowd around Stephen scrambled back, as if afraid of getting contaminated by his bad vibes. Irvin, who was standing right next to Stephen, shot to the back of the crowd. Even though he was a 2-bit hustler who usually just swindled people, he'd been around enough shady dealings to know that Charlie wasn't just making things up. Stephen was terrified. He looked up at Charlie, stunned. Charlie's face was cold as he snorted, "You've been having a rough year, haven't you? Had some sort of violent incident? Like a car crash, maybe?" Stephen stared at Charlie, completely dumbstruck. He had been having a string of bad luck this year. He'd been in a car accident right at the start of the year. If he hadn't been driving that reinforced Hummer, he would have been dead for sure. The other driver was killed instantly. Stephen himself broke a couple of ribs and spent 2 weeks in the hospital recovering. Stephen broke out in a cold sweat. He tore the amulet from his neck and hurled it as far away as he could. The crowd backed away even further, afraid of getting cursed. Seeing Stephen's panicked reaction, Charlie sneered to himself. He knew that if he hadn't said anything, Stephen would have kept wearing it and would have been dead before the year was out. Seeing Stephen was still being stubborn, Charlie just shook his head and sneered. "Who are you?" Stephen gritted his teeth, glaring at Charlie. This person knew way too much. Was he sent by an enemy? "I'm someone you can't afford to mess with," Charlie said coldly, and turned to leave. When Stephen saw him leaving, he figured Charlie was trying to escape and roared, "Get him! He didn't just mess with me by chance. Someone must have sent him." Can't afford to mess with. In Eris Hill City, there's no one I can't mess with. Get him! Break his legs and find out who sent him to cause trouble for the Knox family. He was convinced Charlie had been sent by a business rival. How else could he know the details of his car accident? A few bodyguards moved instantly, blocking Charlie's path. The other two strode right up to Jacob and reached out to grab him. Jacob was terrified. He never imagined that a simple trip to buy an antique would end up like this. Just as a bodyguard was about to grab Jacob, Charlie's expression turned icy. He shot a kick at the big guy in front of him, closed the distance to Jacob in a couple of quick steps, and slammed a punch into the other bodyguard's face. The bodyguard who'd been reaching for Jacob staggered back, his nose gushing blood, his hands flying to his face. The other bodyguard, seeing Charlie fight back, quickly pulled out an electric baton and swung it viciously at him. Jacob screamed, terrified. "Charlie, get out of there!" Before he could finish, Charlie moved with incredible speed, dodging the swing. He twisted, grabbing the bodyguard's left wrist with his free hand and yanking hard. Before the bodyguard could react, Charlie flipped him over his shoulder, slamming him onto the ground. The man lay there, groaning in pain, unable to get up. Jacob was speechless. He could hardly recognize the young man standing in front of him as his own son-in-law. Since when was he so skilled at fighting? Charlie bent down, picked up the fallen electric baton, and gave it a test squeeze. He looked at the remaining bodyguards and said, "Who's next? Come on." The crowd watched in stunned silence, their eyes locked on Charlie. Irvin was also floored, staring at Charlie and muttering, "Dude, that was amazing." He felt lucky he hadn't pissed Charlie off earlier. One of those takedowns would have left him in pieces. Jacob snapped out of it and asked Charlie, his voice full of shock, "Charlie, where did you learn to do that?" "This," Charlie smiled and said, "Haha, Dad, back when I first started working, I used to get bored at home and just watch TV. You know how they have those fighting shows on every morning? I picked it up from there." The truth was, Charlie had trained in close-quarters combat since he was a kid, the real deal. After all, he was a descendant of a Wade family branch. But to hide his identity, he obviously couldn't tell Jacob the truth. What really surprised Charlie, though, was that his strength seemed to have gotten a major boost. He felt several times more powerful than usual. He figured it had to be the mystic scriptures. And that energy stone from before, some of its power had entered his body, and he felt that his overall physical condition had improved a lot. A murmur of awe went through the crowd. A guy with skills like that was more powerful than any fighter from the Oris Hill City Fight Club, and he learned it all from TV. That kind of self-taught talent was just incredible. He learned it from TV? Irvin's eyes went wide. He looked at Charlie with a newfound admiration and a sly grin. "Hey, big guy, can you tell me what channel you were watching? I'd love to learn too." Charlie glanced at Irvin and said calmly, "The arena." The people there actually believed Charlie. They were all itching to get home and check out that show. Stephen, who had been standing there looking stunned, finally snapped out of it, and his face was a mask of pure embarrassment. This was so humiliating. He'd paid a ton of money for these bodyguards. They were supposed to be top fighters from the martial arts center. And now they'd been taken down in the blink of an eye by some random guy who claimed he learned to fight from watching TV. Stephen didn't know anything about martial arts, so he couldn't tell how skilled Charlie really was. But his bodyguards weren't idiots. An expert knows an expert when they see one. They could tell right away that Charlie wasn't bluffing. In fact, he wasn't even using his full strength. This was definitely someone they couldn't afford to mess with. So, the bodyguards just stood there, not daring to move, looking at Charlie with a mix of fear and respect. Jacob watched from the sidelines, completely clueless about fighting. He thought Charlie's moves were pretty basic, just a wrist grab here, a shoulder throw there. He just figured Charlie was a little stronger than average, not realizing he was witnessing real skill. Charlie turned to Stephen with a slight smile. "So, are you going to come quietly, or do I have to come get you?" You, stay away from me. Stephen was so scared that he started sweating, and he instinctively took a step back. Seeing how terrified he was, Charlie just scoffed and started walking toward him. Stephen's eyes were wide with terror as he scrambled backward. If that guy throws me like that, I'll be in the hospital for at least half a month. Just then, a black luxury car pulled around the corner and stopped a short distance away. The driver hopped out and opened the back door for his passenger. Stephen's face lit up when he saw the car. He yelled, "Sister! Someone's beating me up! Help me!" Charlie looked up as the crowd parted, making way for a woman in black, form-fitting athletic wear, who was walking toward him. The athletic wear hugged her figure perfectly, and the angry look on her face gave her an intimidating air. "That's Stephen's sister, Skylar Knox!" Someone in the crowd suddenly shouted, and a buzz went through the onlookers. Stephen cried out, "Sister, this guy beat me up! You gotta teach him a lesson!" When Skylar Knox got closer, she glanced at the bodyguards on the ground, then fixed a cold stare on Charlie. "You did this to them?" Charlie answered flatly, unfazed. "I did. What about it?" Skylar sneered. "Nothing. Just apologize to my brother, now. And if I don't, then I'll make you apologize." Before she'd even finished speaking, Skylar unleashed a whip-fast kick aimed right at Charlie's head. Charlie was a little surprised. This woman was way more skilled than the bodyguards he'd just dealt with. Her kick was packed with power and speed. She was clearly a serious fighter. Stephen watched the scene unfold with a smug grin. He was sure his sister was about to destroy this guy. His sister had been training in martial arts for years and an expert. Even some serious martial arts masters were no match for her. But in the next second, Stephen's eyes went wide with shock.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.